My God.
It's another sad day in America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath with the cop's knee on his neck. He deserves so much more.
How many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of
We need
it.
conviction.
I just want us all to live.
Death will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
The world stands with you.
Criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan?
Trayvon,
Darashia Armstrong, Deborah Dance,
Megan
Michelle Lee Sharp,
George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name. Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names. Once again, and always, we fight for justice.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful. You didn't deserve this.
The Creole seasoning is a sodium-free and sugar-free blend that's versatile enough to put on anything. One of the first blends I developed more than 8 years ago, the Creole seasoning has an unmistakable aroma, a bold flavor, and a little heat for character. Every time I open one of these bottles, I hear trumpets and big band music.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Bryan, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
My God.
Welcome to another edition of Knights of the Round Table. We are on Volume 1, Episode 5. Joining me today, we're going to start with our newest guest first. Ty Miller, and why you just told me, and I forgot that doggone fast, Ty. I'm just going to step out the way and let you introduce yourself and your media affiliation.
Well, you have so many topics and so many voices in your head, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Ty Miller with the Power News Radio Network. We're a morning drive news service that services radio stations across the country with news, sports, and coping with coronavirus reports. Championship Chase is a 30-minute TV show that runs seasonally from October until the end of the NFL season that covers the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right. And I'm going to save my partner in crime for last. So Trevin A. Jones from Urban Media Today Talk Sports. Introduce yourself to the people, Trevin.
Trevin A. Jones, Urban Media Today Talk Sports. Also TAJ Talented 10th. That's my personal website. Also, the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. Ty Miller is the second vice president of that association. My man, A.D. Drew, is the treasurer. Bryan Fulford is also a member, one of the founding members of the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. Everything's about everything else. That's all you get from me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Since Trevin took my shine away, because I was going to come back to all that stuff, but my partner
he is the president. He is the president, so you got to let him have this one, Drew.
Hey, you know, there's certain people you don't pass the mic to, you know, politicians, movie stars, people like that. Trevin has started to creep into that category now. Go ahead, Bryan. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Bryan Fulford, Vice President, Black College Sports Network. At my BCSN 1, the number 1 is where you can follow the Black College Sports Network on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook, and co-host of the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan. And that, well, other way, I should point that way. AD, that's AD. So that's the name of the show that we do together.
All right. And of course, my name is AD Drew. I am the host of this show that I host for the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association in association with the Black College Sports Network. My co-host, Bryan Fulford, the other half of the BCSN Sports Wrap. And we are here to talk HBCU sports, culture, and a few other things here today. What is Knights of the Round Table? Knights of the Round Table is a rapid fire discussion of HBCU professional and amateur sports topics. We choose 9 topics. Why do we choose 9 topics, fellas? For all the frat and sorors out there, the Divine Nine, in honor of the Divine Nine who has so much influence on our HBCU campuses. So without further ado, we're gonna jump into it because we've got a fully loaded show today. We're gonna start off a little bit different for you guys today. You know, we've been starting off with so much football, so much basketball. Let's get into the spring sport, baseball. Jackson State, undefeated in the SWAC. SWAC baseball, probably one of the, as far as HBCUs go, one of the most powerful baseball conferences. We know Alabama State in the past has gone to the regionals and has made noise in the regionals. So let me start off with you, Bryan. Give us your opinion on Jackson State going undefeated in the SWAC, number 1 seed. Do you think they're going to make any noise? And anything else that you want to throw out as far as SWAC baseball?
Well, look, I'll be completely transparent here. I knew very little about SWAC baseball, you know, up until maybe a few years ago, and then obviously I paid attention more as Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman are preparing to move into the SWAC. But you know, the fact that what Jackson State has done with a 24-0 record, 24-0 record in conference is historic in the fact that the best conference record that they had, Jackson State had, was 22-1. I think that goes all the way back to 1990. And I don't know how often, I think it's very rare that a school goes unbeaten in the SWAC, although I do believe maybe Alabama State may have done it sometime within the last decade. I'm not even going to lie to you and tell you that. I've done all the historical fact checking here, but I do know that they are one of the top teams in not only HBCU baseball in the SWAC, might even be in the South. And there are a lot of good programs in the South. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do. The double elimination tournament of the SWAC tournament is dangerous because you understand with baseball, we see it all the time in the major leagues. The best team doesn't always win. Usually it's the team with the best pitching that wins. So if Jackson State pitching is what it needs to be, then they should be successful and hopefully can avoid getting knocked out, at least getting to the championship round of the tournament.
All right, Trevin, I'm gonna let you go next.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson State's 31-8 overall. I mean, 39 games they won. They only lost 8 times. That's dangerous coming into the tournament. The reason I say that, if it's a double elimination tournament, I mean, you have Alabama State was ending the season on an 11-game winning streak. They ended the regular season. So I just think when you're not used to losing, if games get tight, the pressure is on. And that gives you chances to, I don't know, give up a hit that normally you wouldn't have given up, give up a home run that normally is not there, for a pitcher to feel that extra stress. But I mean, I think that they can handle business. I think it's a no-brainer when you ask what's going to happen with the SWAC tournament. I mean, Jackson State already told you they won. They beat everybody. So for somebody to beat them, for them to lose twice in a tournament, I think it's unfathomable. Maybe once, but not twice. So I would have to say that if you're asking me about the SWAC tournament, about what Jackson State will do, I think Jackson State's already answered everybody's questions. It's definitely going to be Jackson State, hands down.
And Ty.
I think anytime in baseball, when you go undefeated, especially in your conference or if you were in the major leagues, you have a 13-game winning streak or a double-digit winning streak, there's certainly something to be looked at and applauded. However, in baseball, as we always see, a short series can spell your demise. And oftentimes when these short series come about, a hot team can come and knock you off. But certainly, as a baseball fan, I applaud Jackson State for a 24-game winning streak in their conference, because that's something very rare in any sport, and also very rare in baseball.
And I'll throw this in. Have you seen some of the scores that Jackson State has been beating people by?
Yeah,
they've been beating people by double digits. They've been beating people by football scores.
Yep, mercy rule.
So, yeah, I mean, how many games have they had where they have not had the mercy rule this season?
Right.
So, with that,
does it affect the level of competition in any way, shape, and form in terms of who they're playing in the SWAC? Is the level of competition down this year?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a level of competition. Obviously, a lot of teams, they get an opportunity to do fall ball, which is very important as far as preparing for the spring season. Same thing with spring football as preparing for fall football. But, when you tack that with the natural talent that Jackson State seems to already have, it is it's interesting that what they're doing there at Jackson State. The question is going to be, what is going to happen when they get into a tight game, when they have to go into the bullpen? What's going to happen day 3 and day 4 of the tournament, when you've already gone through your number 1 and your number 2, you got your number 3 starting, and then you're playing pick a pitcher and trying to get down the stretch. So what's going to happen at that point?
And also, what I want to point out too is, like I said, the pressure's on you when you're playing so well, and you have perfection. So when you have perfection, if you get into a tight game, especially in a tournament, when it's like win or go home, that's when the pressure is really on. So if you're a true champ, and that's where champions, come about. Champions are formed, because if you can handle that pressure and still say, okay, I'm used to beating you by 11 runs, 10 runs. Right now, we're only up by 1. That's all right. I've beaten you already. So you already know who rules. So if they can keep that mindset, I think they'll be fine.
Forget the up by 1. What happens when you're trailing by 1 going into the 8th?
That's where champions are formed.
That's when champions are going to be made.
If I could add one thing that we all have to remember, this, and those who aren't familiar, the SWAC, because of the SWAC scheduling, they haven't played everybody. They don't get the opportunity to play everybody. So, for example, Jackson State did not play Prairie View A&M, who's the 1 seed out of the West. They didn't play Southern, who's the 3 seed out of the West. They didn't play Texas Southern. So, you know, there's at least 2 teams there in A&M and Southern that, I mean, they're going to have something to say on that side of when they do meet Jackson State, or, you know, should they meet Jackson State, they're going to have something to say about, you know, what's to happen. And the fact that you haven't seen them might be an advantage for those teams. We've had a chance to see Southern this year, and Southern's a good ball club. You know, they've obviously had their ups and downs. Grambling has played well. So I think between Prairie View A&M, Grambling, and Southern on that west side, those 3 schools will have an opportunity to possibly pull off a game, and you want to see if you can knock Jackson State down to the losers bracket. That's what everybody's going to be trying to do.
All right. Moving on over, SWAC regular season is done. Everybody has non-conference games this week. SWAC tournament begins a week from Wednesday. Moving over to the other Division I conference, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference.
You already know.
What's that?
You already know.
Well,
Norfolk State, don't even ask.
Norfolk is number 1 in the North. FAMU is number 1 in the South.
Like Norfolk State's doing something better than somebody else in the Southern Division.
Well, hey, you already know. No matter what happens, I don't even care.
FAMU
we hold the green and gold.
Norfolk have the same 15-9 record, although they don't have the same opponents. Their records are the same. The feel-good story in the MEAC is North Carolina Central. Since Trevin wants to chime in on Norfolk, I'm gonna let him start this conversation off in the MEAC.
Oh, I'm gonna be biased. I'm going with the Spartans. I mean, I remember back when Marty Miller was the head coach with the Spartans back in the day, and they've always had a history of great talent coming through Norfolk. Great talent because you had to tie with the Tides. The semi-pro team was right down by the harbor. And Norfolk State always has good talent coming through on the diamond. So me being a Spartan, and I'm going to be biased, I'll put it out there and be totally transparent. There's no way with us being number 1 in the North. I mean, hey, it's Norfolk State. Okay.
Ty.
I'll be totally unbiased. I know less about the MEAC than I do about the SWAC. So in that case, I'll defer to you guys, and I'll sit here as a fan. I'll learn about SWAC baseball and MEAC baseball.
All right. Let's get the other biased person in Bryan, the FAMU bracket.
FAMU, I knew that was coming.
There's no bias, just facts. Most recent 4-game series, FAMU won 3-1. The previous series, they split 2-2. So, and so look, that's let me do the quick math here. That's 5 out of 8. You do the math on that, and I'll be done. So that's it. Nothing else to say.
I'm gonna leave it at this. The feel-good story in all of this would be if North Carolina Central wins the MEAC tournament in their last season, in not only in the MEAC, but for their baseball program. It advances to the HBCU World Series to play the SWAC champion and potentially win the HBCU World Series on their way out the door, aka what Winston-Salem State did in the CIAA a few years ago. Go ahead, Bryan.
Can I add, it should be, you mentioned North Carolina Central. In all seriousness, they are the only team with a plus 500 record overall record, 21-18 overall. So even though they sit 2 games behind Florida A&M in the Southern Division, which, look, by the way, it's not set in stone that, in all seriousness, like that can't fade away. I mean, actually, upcoming here at the end of the season, you have Florida A&M traveling to North Carolina Central this upcoming weekend, playing 4 games. Look, I mean, North Carolina Central could end up sitting on top of the Southern Division. So let's just, I will back away just a little bit, only on North Carolina Central, but we own Norfolk State. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, did he just say own Norfolk State? Is that what he said? Okay. Okay.
OWN.
Okay.
That's the way I was taught to spell own. So
out of respect for the program and out of respect for you, AD Drew, who's being the host and commentator, I'll leave that one there. No problem.
Moving on down the line. Xavier finished runner-up in the Black College World Series, recently competed in the AII National Tournament. They finished third. They lost in the losers bracket finals to two top 20 teams. Both of their losses were the top 20 teams. Xavier, first year for baseball, and I believe the number is 62 years. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that number. But first of all, the feel-good story about Xavier coming back, not only competing, but dominating and beating some great competition. And it wasn't like they were getting run-ruled in this tournament. They earned their bid. They've got respect from those NAIA programs that they were playing. So, Bryan, I'm going to let you lead off this discussion. You've seen Xavier play. So give us your thoughts on Xavier. Do they have do they have an opportunity? There's 46 teams going to the NAIA tournament. Do they still have an opportunity to get an at-large? Because I believe there's only 16 at-large berths available.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, what happened to Xavier in the Black College World Series, they were the 1 seed, happened to them in this AII tournament where they lost their opening game. You lose your opening game, you instantly get put into the losers bracket, and you got to kind of fight your way back to the top. They looked like they were getting there. They were 1 game away from getting to that opportunity. Unfortunately, they lost in that second of 2 games. I believe it was on Sunday night. That would have got them to the championship game and would have ensured them an automatic bid. I have a feeling, and I'm only going off of what I see reported, that their rankings, I don't know who Boat Chip is, but Boat Chip Power Index. I mean, gosh, there's so many indexes and rating systems that the NCAA uses. But let's just say, according to that index, and this is coming from Xavier's website, from their reporting, which, by the way, props to Xavier. You talk about an NAIA school that puts out information at a D1 level. They give you so much great information, great graphics. Props to the SID and all the folks over at Xavier. They do a top-notch, first-class job.
And Kassur.
Yes. They're ranked 54th. And so if only 46 teams qualify for the NAIA tournament and there are only 16 bids, that's a tough hill to climb. I mean, they have a 27-11 record, but I don't know if they have enough to get into the NAIA tournament. And so it would definitely be a disappointment, but they had opportunities. They obviously winning the Black College World Series might have helped their statistics because that was going up against a Division II team. Winning this tournament, or at least getting to the championship, would have helped them. So look, Xavier is a fun squad to watch. They were a fun group to watch. I think it is encouraging to see what they have built and are building. And it gave a breath of fresh air to Black college baseball that I think many outsiders like myself and many of us here needed to see.
Trevin.
Adrian Holloway, Coach Holloway, congrats and kudos to you. 27-11, it's over 700 mark for the season. Coach, I support you. I'm behind Xavier. Is it the gold? Isn't it the gold, Xavier, out of Louisiana? The Gold Rush, right. I support you 150%, but I am one of those people, even in this medium and intermedia, who I feel as though HBCUs do not get respect that is due to them no matter what we're doing. We always seem to be on the outside looking in, and I'm hoping that you get into the tournament, even though you're ranked 54th. But 27-11, I think they should be in the tournament. I don't think there should be a question.
Ty, bring it home from a fan's point of view.
I'll just say hats off to Xavier for what they've done this year, because if you go 27-11 and you just started baseball for the first time and you say 62 years, that's a credit to the coaching and the players and the administration. And also talking about the other teams in the MEAC and also the teams in the SWAC, with all the dominance and the good play they've had this year, it speaks volumes about the talent at those levels. Now, going forward, we will see how much talent gets recognition when the baseball draft comes up, because obviously if they have good players, there should be some players noted or drafted when the draft comes up in Major League Baseball.
And I'll say this, bringing this home, watching Xavier play was like watching old, as they say, old Negro League baseball. That's what they steal bases. They bunt. They're a gap-to-gap team. Yeah, they can hit the long ball, but they do all of the little things that makes baseball fun to watch from a fan's point of view. And they had good pitching. The problem with Xavier, like Bryan said, they just had untimely errors. Xavier will beat you 8 innings, but that 1 inning that they don't beat you has tended to be the difference between them winning and losing. Be it a wild pitch here, be it a error there, be it something. That was the difference between Xavier winning that Black College World Series and looking at the stat lines from the AII tournament. Were those same differences between them winning and finishing third and getting to that second seed in the AII tournament? I'll tell you what.
Can I jump in real quick before we go to break? Ty brought up a great point. Kudos to all of these teams because remember, COVID has interfered with everything. So kudos to the coaching staffs, to the schools, to the administrations for keeping these players safe and actually getting them to a 27-11. You played 38 games during the COVID season. That's incredible. So Coach Holloway, again, I have to say kudos to you. Excellent job at Xavier down in Louisiana.
And with that, we will take our first break. Coming up after the break, we're going to get into football, spring football, who got drafted, who didn't get drafted. We already know nobody got drafted, but let's get into some of the whys. You're watching Knights of the Round Table, HBCU Pro Sports Media presentation.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
We're back on Knights of the Round Table. Bryan Fulford, Trevin Jones, Ty Miller, and myself, A.D. Drew. It's time to get into some football, fellas. We couldn't get anybody drafted, but we got somebody who was not projected to sign as a UFDA undrafted free agent, Jabri Blunt. Yes, if that name sounds familiar, one of Ty's teams that he covers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, his dad played for him, that being Mel Blunt. But Jabri Blunt has a unique pedigree. He hasn't played since high school. He played basketball in college at Cleveland State and then at North Carolina Central. Ty, we're going to start this off with you. What's your thoughts about the Dolphins signing him basically to be a tight end, to audition as a tight end in the league?
Well, first of all, I know his parents, Mel Blunt and Tiana Blunt, are very proud of Jabri getting signed by the Dolphins. But it was unexpected because the guy you thought, and Trevor, you know this, we thought it would be Akil Blunt playing NFL football. Mm-hmm. So yes. Jabri comes out of the woodwork. I think it's a great signing from a PR perspective, but I think it's going to be a reach in terms of him making that squad because this is a flash signing, but the Dolphins have a couple of tight ends in front of him, notably Mike Gesicki. But I think it's a great signing from a PR perspective. If he makes a team, it's even greater.
Trevin?
Yeah, I agree with Ty. And again, I thought it was going to be a kill as well, playing in the league. Because he went to FAMU, right? Didn't he play linebacker at FAMU? Right. So we thought he would be in the league. But I don't know. It's a reach. It's a lot of pressure. But look at this. Look at it this way. The Dolphins have nothing to lose. Neither does Jabri. I mean, it's like, hey, let's go for it. Shoot your shot. Let's make the best man win, so to speak. I mean, Tony Gonzalez did it. I mean, you know what? Graham, the tight end who ended up in New Orleans, he did it. Who was with Seattle at first? He did it. So I mean, hey, let's see what happens. I'm rooting for him.
And what was the guy played in San Diego? Why is he drawing a blank to me? Antonio Gates also played basketball.
Antonio Gates. Yep.
Yes. Bryan.
Well, obviously that brings me to my future trivia question. What do Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, and Jabri have in common? They all started their Hall of Fame careers as basketball players in college. I'm just saying, why not? I mean, look, he's 6'7", 230. I bet you one thing that he has over Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, neither one of those two were conference players of the year playing basketball and were the baddest dude in their conference playing basketball. Let's not forget, 2 seasons ago, Jabri Blunt basically and this was in a year when North Carolina A&T had a great season. He put Central on their back. Man, he was tough. Averaged, I'm just looking at it right here, averaged 19.2 points a game, third in rebounding with 9.5. I mean, and this was at 6'7", 230. And, I'm not going to lie. There were times when I thought he was really 6'5", but he's 6'7", 230. I mean, is
that the basketball 2 inches that you always get?
Well, maybe, it was just that he looked like he was playing that guard position, or at least that small forward position at Central. I mean, it wasn't like he was playing a power forward position, which if I'm not mistaken, that's what Gates and Gonzalez were when they played I forgot where Gates played, but I know
Kent State. One
was at Kent State, another one was at Akron, I think. But anyway, they weren't guards who would shoot the ball. So the athleticism is there. Ty, I don't know how that translates in the NFL, but I think it's a very interesting move, and he's got the pedigree. So hey, why not?
We'll see when he takes a hit.
Well, there you go. But that's always the thing, right? How do basketball players take a hit? And if he can handle a hit.
Well, I don't know about the hit, but can you imagine the back shoulder throws in the corner end zone and the jump balls to the back of the end zone for somebody who's a basketball player? That should be him all day.
Don't forget the kind of guys that Tua had to work with at Alabama.
Right.
He had a lot of athleticism at the tight end position, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, he had all-world wide receivers, but if I'm not mistaken, he might have had an all-pro or at least a projected all-pro at tight end as well.
Yeah, and let's not forget, if he makes the team, he'll definitely be that back man on the Hail Mary to knock the ball down, and expect to see him on field goal block, just using that vert, seeing if he can just get up there and do a Kellen Winslow and get a piece of the ball there. And if the Jaguars can sign Tim Tebow, the Dolphins can sign Blunt. That's all I'm gonna say.
Tim Tebow is 84 years old.
He said 84.
Tim Tebow has something else going for him, but we're not gonna get into it on this show.
I would have never thought we would have mixed in Tim Tebow and Kellen Winslow in the same segment. I think something's wrong with that, but that's okay.
And Bryan, the guy you were talking about is O.J. Howard. He's down at Tampa Bay. He was their all-world tight end at Alabama.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think O.J. and Tua actually crossed each other, did they?
Oh, yes, they did.
They did.
Yeah, the national championship year. True story.
No, you're right.
I refereed O.J. Howard in football and basketball his freshman year in high school.
Say it again.
I refereed O.J. Howard. Was not a great basketball player despite his size, but
and you're right about
that boy could catch anything in football.
He and Tua did not cross in college. I mean, Tua was a freshman, I think, but he didn't play. It was the actual Florida State quarterback that transferred, Coker, that threw O.J. Howard against Clemson.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on. Undrafted free agents. Trevin, We've seen the list of those who have signed. Who in your opinion has the best chance to stick?
It's going to be hard because I like Jimmy Robinson. I've seen him play many times. I remember seeing him in the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis when Howard played Bethune-Cookman. Number 22, if you blink, you'll miss him. I mean, literally. He seems to be able to. I think he'll be a great slot back in the NFL. I think he'll be a great return specialist. I think he ran a 4.2 in the combine. So I mean, how do you ignore that speed? Some people might say his size, but I think he can make special teams. I think he's definitely going to make it. But I also one of my favorites is Franklin McMcCain III, defensive back out of North Carolina A&T. I know he was injured one year while he was at A&T, but when he was on the field, man, he's ridiculous. So I'm hoping that he would make it. No disrespect to any of the other players, but I'm thinking that Jimmy Robinson has the best chance to stick because of special teams.
Bryan.
Well, I think the measurables for Jimmy Robinson are what stick out to me. And I think I may have said that the last time I was on here last week. Go look at, and this is for anybody, go look at Tyreek Hill 2016 compared to Jimmy Robinson 2021. The only difference is 1 inch, 1 inch in height. The measurables, the speed, the 40-inch vertical. I mean, I think Tyreek maybe ran a little faster cone drill. They both went to let me see. BCU is obviously a Division I, I'm calling 1AA FCS program. I think West Alabama is a Division II school, which is where Tyreek Hill went to. So what amazes me is in all of the post discussion about the undrafted players, nobody seems to want to call out the scouts. It's the scouts in the scouting departments that make the selections or make the recommendations to the GMs. Now, why aren't the scouts looking at, I mean, there were 32 scouts at the HBCU Combine. Now, I know, there are people who don't want to piss people off maybe, but I think we need to look at all 32 of those teams, all 32 of those scouts that were there, and we need some honest talk. What didn't you like? What didn't you see? What doesn't compare? It's great that I see Doug Williams and Deion Sanders being upset. What about the scouting departments? Doug Williams, the scouting department's right down the hall. What's the scouting department saying to Doug Williams about why not one? The two guys who went to the Senior Bowl, one of them, David Moore from Grambling, he was voted the MVP by the players. Not one of them got drafted. Look, it's not my league, it's not my money, but I think if we're going to be invested in this and we're going to be upset and let's look at the scouting departments. Let's ask the questions about the scouting departments and why aren't the scouts looking at the smaller schools, HBCU. And this is a bigger problem than just HBCUs because it really falls under the FCS umbrella. But I think there's a real problem that needs to be looked at and addressed in a bigger fashion. I'll turn it over to Ty, but I just think that's where we need to turn our attention.
Well, Bryan, I think hit one of the nails on the head. The NFL hates to waste, in their opinion, money on small school talent if they don't think they're going to make the grade. So they'd rather get them as free agents. With that said, I think one of the guys you mentioned has the best chance to make an NFL team. And I think that's David Moore out of Grambling. Oftentimes we look at the sexy positions, maybe the wide receiver, the punt return specialist, the kickoff returner, or even the defensive back. But in this case, I really think most of these teams that for black college talent, they look at their offensive linemen, and oftentimes they are developmental projects. But in David Moore's case, he showed up and showed out, at the pro day. And I think he has the best chance to make the NFL squad. Now, as far as drafting, I don't know what's going to take to get these guys drafted because, as I said, NFL teams, and I think you have a point, Bryan, that the scouts need to be held accountable because they have a pro day for a reason. They've developed this, emphasis on getting more black talent looked at and recognized. But when it comes to drafting, it comes down to dollars and cents, and they'd rather spend their money on a guy as a free agent as opposed to a draftee. because a draftee comes in with a certain amount of money, but a free agent, he gets what you basically negotiate. So I just think that NFL, they don't have it. We have concern about this, but I really don't think the NFL has a whole lot of concern about this.
That's because enough noise hasn't been made yet. HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, NFL, keep that organization in your mind, because that's the type of organization that should come about and say, look, you did set aside an HBCU combine, but NFL, did you do it? Or did you hear from others that actually led you in that direction? So I think that different organizations in the media, I think if these players get enough exposure and people talk about it more, then that could actually tilt a little bit in their favor.
I don't think, Trevin, that you can mandate that, because if you look at the fact that they still haven't gotten this ruling rule down packed, and we have less coaching candidates as opposed to when it first started. So the NFL can easily say, well, we have the league is 75 to 80% black, and now you're telling us to make sure we draft black college talent. So I really don't know if we can mandate, by putting pressure on the league to say, okay, you have to pick black college talent. And I don't necessarily know if it's a situation where they're deliberately not trying to pick black college talent. I can't make that call, from my opinion, that they're doing it deliberately. I really think it comes down to numbers, and historically, these NFL teams have picked smaller colleges. This year, there were only 2 Division II players drafted. So if you're Division II, you have a bone to pick too about that. I just don't think they can mandate, say, okay, you have to pick black college talent.
Well, 9 FCS players were drafted overall. That's Division II, Division III, NAIA, and I say FCS, 9 non-FBS players were drafted. I believe there was 6 FCS, 2 Division IIs, and 1 Division III. I believe those were the numbers. We've kind of migrated towards our next topic. So, Bryan, I'm gonna give you a chance to rebut both of these guys.
Well, Ty brings up a great point about being, and maybe I said all that in the last segment, but I also wonder, am I screaming at the wall instead of, because I feel like the system, as Ty eloquently put it, is really designed for them not wasting picks on small school talent, but going after those guys in the undrafted free agent market. And look, maybe that's a better place for guys, because look, at least when you are not drafted, you can go to the team that is the better fit for you. So the problem is, how many opportunities do guys get? Jimmy Robinson going to the Bengals is a good fit, I think, because they've shown that they drafted a wide receiver, I believe from LSU, Chase, right? Who played with their quarterback, Burrow. So they've shown that, okay, we want to get speed. We want to bring in some speed at the wide receiver position. Is that a better pick than, say, if Jimmy Robinson would have gone to, I don't know, let's say Tampa, where they're loaded up at wide receivers? That might have been a good place for Jimmy Robinson. So how do we help these guys get opportunities, or is it even our role to get guys? Obviously, we're in a role of reporting what we see, and maybe that's what we should be maybe that's what we should be yelling for and advocating more, is to say, how do we help HBCU players be seen, be heard from, whatever it takes to help their job prospects, so that they can get opportunities when after the draft in these undrafted free agent markets. Maybe that's what we should be arguing for.
I do want to say this. I think you made a point about the Bengals and Jimmy Robinson. Well, they like speed. They had a guy who didn't pan out, a guy named John Ross, who came out of the University of Washington a couple of years ago. So in my estimation, I think it's a lot of times up to the agent of these players, or whoever represents these players post-draft when they don't get drafted, to say, okay, where is my best fit? Where is there an opportunity for me to make this team based on my skill level? And you look at a Jimmy Robinson, he's a speed guy. John Ross didn't work out for the Bengals. So maybe he comes in. Of course, Jamar Chase is going to get all the recognition, but in the slot, if Jimmy Robinson can play a slot like they wanted John Ross to, maybe he can be a fit for the organization. So a lot of time, I think it comes down to, what is my best fit? My agent, what are you doing for me? Where can I get placed? Or if you're Deion Sanders with Jackson State, okay, I got a player, and let me try to maneuver him to a certain college where I know he can be a fit. For example, Mac McCain out of Seattle. That's a great fit for Mac McCain right now because Seattle had a change in defensive backs in the offseason. So he has a very good chance of sticking to that squad, even as a daily roster player or a practice squad player.
All right, I'll tell you what we're gonna do, fellas. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna go into our last segment. We're gonna get into some BIAC talk, some track talk, and one last football story. Watching Knights of the Round Table, a HBCU Pro Sports Media Association presentation.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
There's a shot. To right. Might be. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
All right, fellas. About just over a year ago, I put out an article on the my BCSN website about some changes in conferences, conference migration. Well, some of those things have come true, some of them have not. But here's another one that I pointed this out to Bryan in pre-show that I kind of called, and according to Ken Rashad at HBCU-Sports.com, this one may also be coming true. Kentucky State and Virginia State may be moving to the MEAC. So, good move, bad move, opinions one way or another. Let's start with Ty Miller on this.
Man. Good move for the MEAC if they can get at least 2 teams, because 6 teams to me in a conference won't fly. So for the MEAC, it's a win-win situation. Not a good situation, in my opinion, for the SIAC, because I really think the SIAC was onto something. I think they were growing, even though Savannah State, opted out a couple of years ago. I really think it's a bad move for them. I think the better move among the conferences, like even the SWAC, CIAA, SIAC, and the MEAC, would have been to come together somehow and say, okay, we've had a couple of defections here to the Southern Conference with Hampton and North Carolina A&T going to another conference. Maybe it's time for us to pool our resources together and build this super conference. But certainly a win-win situation if Virginia State goes to the MEAC, because you have a natural tie-in with Norfolk State. You have a natural tie-in with a couple other schools there. So it'd be a win-win situation for the MEAC if that happens.
Trevin.
I'm the one, and Ty knows I've said this for years. I'm thinking the SIAC and the CIAA need to combine, and the SWAC and the MEAC need to combine and just have 2 power conferences in Black college football. That way we can never be ignored again, because I think we just get ignored when it comes to playoffs and championships and that type of thing. I think it's a good move for Virginia State. I think a more natural move would be Virginia Union, Virginia State going right up the highway as part of the MEAC. I think it's not such a good move for Kentucky State. I mean, it's a good move if you can get into the MEAC, make it happen, and I'm rooting for the thoroughbreds. I just think geographically, it's a bad thing, because I think they're better off in the SIAC. But if they want to move up to the MEAC, and that's Division I, by all means, go for it. But for me, I'm gonna always say this, and Bryan laughed at me earlier because I said I'm a romantic when it comes to HBCU sports, because I am. I'd rather see the power conferences, SIAC, CIAA combined, MEAC, SWAC, get it together. That way you can never be refused again.
Right.
What was interesting, I wasn't surprised hearing Virginia State, because that's long been thought of, rumored, suggested. They seem like a natural fit in that footprint. As Trevin even just said, Virginia Union would also seem like a good fit. Bowie State would even seem like a good fit within the MEAC footprint. Kentucky State does not sound like a natural fit in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, a team that's in the Bluegrass State in the Midwest. I don't get it. You don't want to, I don't want to ignore them, but if they can do it, great. I think the thing that I would be cautious about, though, is when you see that any type of move might take 3 to 4 years, that type of process can lead to some very strange things happening. I mean, remember just a decade ago, Winston-Salem State seemed to all be set and squared to go to the MEAC, right? And then all of a sudden, at the 11th hour, said, "Yeah, no, we think we're going to stay here in the CIAA." And I mean, it's been good for them. I mean, they, but that changed the course of history, I think, for the MEAC when that happened. So here the MEAC is on the 11th hour, literally on, I'm not going to say life support, but whatever is before life support is where they're at.
ICU.
Yeah. Okay. So they're in the ICU unit right now, trying to fight off whatever is coming, trying to fight off death. And look, man, it's tough. It's tough. But I'm curious to see what'll happen. But I'm not holding my breath for both of these schools to make it to the MEAC. One, maybe. I'd be shocked to see 2.
All right. Number one, notice they didn't go after Bowie State in this conversation, with Bowie State being one of the largest schools up in that area. Why didn't they go after Bowie State? Bowie State doesn't have the one sport that the MEAC needs even more desperately than football, that being baseball. This is a baseball move, fellas. Kentucky State and Virginia State having good baseball teams. MEAC will be down to 4 baseball teams after this season. Yes, we already know what they're doing in football, but this is a baseball move. Pay attention. You can play up in one sport. See if these 2 schools play up in baseball only. That may be the telltale sign of whether they will ultimately join the MEAC as full-fledged member by being an affiliate in baseball, as the MEAC tries to hold on to their automatic bid in baseball. That's number one. If this move does happen, what happens to Central State? Because now Central State is way up there by themselves in the SIAC West. Does Central State join a HWCU conference? Or because that travel for the rest of the SIAC West is going to be treacherous without that pit stop in Kentucky as they make the Kentucky State Central State swing right now in all their sports. If Virginia State moves, pay attention to Bluefield State. Let's see if Bluefield State comes into the CIAA to replace Virginia State, as Bluefield State has just added a bunch of programs. And then there's also this one. See if Bluefield State joins the MEAC in baseball only. Couple things to look at, and Kentucky State, Virginia State, beware. Not only look at Winston-Salem State from a decade ago, but look at Savannah State's 15-year run in Division I. Was not successful, so make sure you got all your ducks in a row and know what you're getting into before you buy that potential used car, as I like to say. All right, moving on. Track, fellas. North Carolina A&T dominated in track. Swept the men and the women. Prairie View won the SWAC men, and Alabama State won the SWAC women. Trevor, I'm gonna start off with you. Give me some opinions on this track thing.
Man, it's A&T all the way. I'm gonna tell you a quick story before I got to get out of here. I was watching the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships, and North Carolina A&T was in it, and I was pumped. I was like, "Oh, I'm excited! These cats are just been burning up the track." They ran a 3 in the 4x400. If you run a 3:12 in high school, you're doing excellent. If you run close to 3 minutes in college, I think 2:59 is the world record. So if you're running close to 3 minutes, a 3:01, 3:02 in college, you're blazing. These cats ran a 3:03 indoors. So that means you have to run around the track more than once. Okay. Then that translated to outdoors as a 3:00.23. So just looking at the mile relay team for North Carolina A&T, and then seeing the women just burning up the track too, kudos to Randolph Ross Jr., kudos to Daniel Stokes, Trevor Stewart, Elijah Young. 3 minutes, 23 seconds. That's world class. That's why A&T won both.
And for those of y'all on tracks, those are about 45-second splits on those quarters.
Yes.
Bryan, you go next.
I got to put an asterisk next to all of this. As good as A&T is, put an asterisk next to all this. Why? Because not one school or student athlete from the state of Florida participated. Blasphemous. There's no way without any student athlete from the beautiful, fast state of Florida in your meet. And they've been in this meet for decades. And now all of a sudden, not one Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, Rattler there. Hey, congratulations, A&T. Golf clap, but I'm putting an asterisk by it. We'll see y'all at the national tournament, or we'll see y'all in the SWAC versus MEAC challenge. Actually, the SWAC versus Big South challenge in a year.
I knew that snake would come out somewhere. There goes that Rattler. I knew the snake would come out sooner or later. Look at him.
The snake in the grass.
Well, he bit me too, because I got to agree with you, Bryan, that if no Florida athletes in the track and field events, then it may not be totally valid. So put an asterisk by it. I do want to know, however, were there any football players on either North Carolina A&T, Alabama State, or Prairie View running in the track and field events? Because if they were, maybe the NFL is looking for them, because DK Metcalf this past Sunday ran a 10.3 in the 100 meters. Now, he came in 15 out of 17 players, but that was blazing fast, if not for his big shoulders, that had he been a smaller guy, he may have ran a 9.9 as opposed to a 10.3.
And one thing, before we get off this track, shout out to Alabama State, 11 in a row on the women's side. That is what you call a streak. All right, Edward Waters hires their new offensive coordinator, Brian Jenkins Sr., who used to be the head coach at Bethune-Cookman, who also used to be who was the head coach at Alabama State. Did not have a successful tenure at Alabama State. Unfortunately, Bryan and I know what he did at Bethune-Cookman. So I'm gonna start off with you, Bryan. Let's talk about this hire at Edward Waters.
Well, maybe being back in the state of Florida will bring some magic back to the to Jenkins. No, look, hey, he had a successful run as the OC at Alabama A&M, just coming off a SWAC and a HBCU national title. Got a chance to work with a great quarterback. He will have a tough road ahead of him. He will have to develop some quarterbacks. There's a lot of talent that needs to be developed at Edward Waters. So that'll be his biggest challenge, getting them into an offense. What's interesting, Jenkins, obviously, if you looked at what he ran at Bethune-Cookman versus what he did at Alabama A&M recently, it'll be interesting to see what type of offense Edward Waters has coming up this year. So, hey, good luck to Edward Waters. It's a good hire. Definitely brings some credibility. It'll be interesting to see if he brings something innovative to the SIAC this year that frustrates opponents.
Ty.
It sounds to me like a restart for Brian Jenkins. As you mentioned, he had a lot of success at Bethune-Cookman. Kind of got exhausted down there with his style of coaching. Went to Alabama A&M, had success there. His son was played there. I do think he's kind of like hit the reset button, where he's not in a high-profile position, but he really is in a position where he can help develop talent and get credit for that.
Trevin.
I like Coach Jenkins. I know he's not the head coach, but I remember when he was the head coach, and Ty and I got to interview him many, many times. And I learned from Coach Jenkins. He was the coach that would run around and saying to his players, he would say, the sky's the limit. That's why there's no ceiling. man, I carried that with me since that time and that day. It just his persona, his energy, and I think he's going to do great things at Edward Waters. So go Coach Jenkins. I'm a Coach Jenkins fan.
You get that from a 112 song? Did that come from 112? Is that where that came from? Or
I don't know where it came from.
D-Train out of the 1990s and 80s.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
As good as that hire was with Jenkins, the most important one might be keeping somebody who's already there and keeping him on staff. That being Joseph Carter, Coach Carter, the former defensive coordinator at Tuskegee, knows the SIAC, knows the SIAC personnel. He was the interim coach when Ruffin was let go, keeping him around as defensive coordinator, and he's won a couple of championships in the SIAC with Tuskegee. So that will be just as important of not a hire, but a key that Edward Waters can do. All right, we're gonna wrap it up right here, fellas. I'm gonna start off with Trevin. Trevin, 30 seconds. Give us your outtake, and then give us all your handles and what we can find you at.
Just 2 handles. On Twitter, Ice Cold Alpha. Also, check out the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. On Twitter, it's HBCU@Pro, which I think is correct. Is so cool. And my outtake is this: keep following and supporting HBCU Sports because they definitely need the support. Unity is key in 2021-22.
All right, Ty.
You can check out what we do at PowerNewsRadio.com. That's for the Power News Radio Network, and ChampionshipTHTV.com for what we do with Steeler football. My outtake is this: for the coaches that Dawson Odoms mentioned when he was hired at Norfolk State that have languished in HBCU ranks for a number of years and not gotten their shots, I agree with Coach Odoms. Hang in there. You'll get your shots. Sure, Deion Sanders, sure, Eddie George are big name hires, but the truth will be told in wins and losses. And when that happens, the guys who have been languishing for years and who they know how to coach in black college football, they'll get their shots as well.
Ryan?
You can follow me personally on Twitter at DRB365, but more importantly, find the Black College Sports Network on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at MyBCSN1, the number 1. I'm looking to have more discussions about the true impact of spring football. Will spring football, and we start thinking about what's coming ahead with the national, the NILs that is going to be coming into college athletics this upcoming year. Is playing in the spring something that is feasible that not only HBCUs but all FCS should really consider looking at? Because currently, I wonder if the current model that the NFL uses to field its teams, which is the Power 5 programs, I wonder if the current model of college football is really even set up for FCS programs to have success. And I mean financial success. We're not talking on the field. We're talking about financial success and maintain viability. I know the HBCU product is unique, but I think it's worth considering, or at least beginning to explore, what might, even if it's just 5 to 10 years of playing in the spring, what might that look like for HBCU football from a financial perspective? Just something to think about that I'm looking to ask more questions about in the upcoming weeks.
All right, and AD Drew at BCSN Drew. Everything else that applies to Bryan applies to me as far as where you can follow me at. My outtake is a little bit more somber. Tyrell Cohen, twin brother of Tariq Cohen of the NFL Chicago Bears, former North Carolina A&T running back, passed away tragically this past weekend. Not gonna get into the details of the story. You can Google it. It's all over Google. But it's just sad when you somebody loses. It's bad enough when you lose a brother or a sister at a young age, but when you lose a twin, a person who you've been together ever since you can remember, you've always had that playmate. You've always had that other person right there who has those same feelings and emotions. It's got to be tough for them. I've known a few twins that have lost their other twin, and it's always been tough on the survivor. So prayers are with Tariq Cohen. Lift him up, shoot him something if you follow him on Twitter or any type of social media, or if you know him personally, or send a message to A&T or to the Chicago Bears, because he's going to need support right now for him, not only for himself but his family, because we want to see him to continue to succeed in the league, and hopefully he'll be able to get over this incident and be able to continue the great career that he has had thus far in the NFL. My name is A.D. Drew. That's Bryan Fulford. That's Ty Miller. Trevin A. Jones had to jump off. This is Knights of the Round Table. This is a presentation of the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association. We'll be right back here next Monday with 9 new topics, maybe the same guest, maybe different guests. Who knows? We'll figure it out probably Saturday or Sunday, just like we always do. But most importantly, like, subscribe, share, and if you got a chance, donate, because we can use it. Thank you for joining us. God bless you. We'll see you next Monday night.